Strike one. Strike two. Strike three. You're out. No, we're not playing baseball. We're talking about some comments I've heard. And they're not all recent. They've been spread out over about a year's time here. But it all comes down to people thinking that they have the advantage with a flow bench, which in reality they should. But what about when you think about somebody, because they don't have a flow bench, that they can't do a good job on a pair of cylinder heads, which people have made statements on YouTube about. And then it makes guys like me and my two friends that I'm about to talk about kind of look like nobodies. And yet, needless to say, all these guys with big channels that have made these statements, and some of them don't have a real big channel, but one guy's a guru, basically. Everybody thinks makes the most horsepower because they listen to what he says. But all we hear is dyno numbers and flow numbers. And I always say it, where's the car? Where's the engine that made the power? What car did it wind up in? So these claims mean nothing to me when people say they make a certain flow number or a horsepower number. But if we want to go by horsepower numbers on a dyno, I know a guy right now recently just made really big numbers on a flow bench, and it didn't work out so well for the head on a running vehicle. And then I know another guy that doesn't have a flow bench that just basically surprised everybody on a dyno, if you want to go by dyno numbers, which people like dyno numbers. So we'll do it this way. The motor exceeded what anybody thought it would exceed, with a guy doing these heads with no flow bench. And that's basically what the engine has going for it, is them cylinder heads. Because other combinations of the engine, some of it's wrong, and some of it could be improved. So the credit goes to the cylinder heads as far as I'm concerned. And then I have another friend. Yeah, I have more than one. Surprise guys? Yeah. Mopar guys too. Take that in consideration. My Mopar buddy, we'll call him John. Well, that's his name. Anyway, one of my friends had a Cougar back in the day with a big block, and it ran pretty well, and it was full weight. The car was about 36 to 3,800 pounds, depending on who you talk to. And the surprising part of that is the guy who owned the car always said it weighed less than what we thought it did, because he was pretty fair about his assessment with things. He didn't try to make it look like he was doing anything special. But the motor was a decent little motor for 460, low compression, and it went 1060s. So it so happened my friend, who we'll call John, met up with him at the traffic light, and he had a 360 Mopar with a real special combination. Have you ever heard of a 292 cam? You know, if you're a Mopar guy, you better have, because that was one of the most popular cams that they used back in the day. So, nothing special. RPM intake, a 750 Holly, and no converter at all hardly in the car. It had a converter, but it was so tight that when you put the car in gear, it would just push against the car with that camshaft. That camshaft called for at least a 3,000 stall. So that just goes to show that it could even have been better than what it was when he raced my friend's Cougar. So we have a little 360 with his ported heads that he did on his little bench with no flow testing. But what he did do, he raised the ports and he did all the things that he knew to do with the head. And that's why that car ran like it ran, because of his head work. Just like this other friend of mine who just did a pair of cylinder heads with no flow bench exceeded the horsepower numbers of what people thought that would do. My point is this: people that have flow benches, they use it for a tool. But some guys have a flow bench and they go by that flow bench. They go by what number that shows them, and they think that's what's going to make the most power. Wrong. Because I'm going to tell you something. I've seen so many guys digging at the floor lately in the short turns to get flow numbers out of stuff. I guarantee you on a running vehicle, it's not going to work out too well, especially with an automatic vehicle that don't have a lot of converter in it. You get the RPMs up in a small block, it usually can kind of help hide situations like that until you change gears, or if you have a stick shift, miss a gear and have to recover, and that motor loses the momentum it has. And you'll find out real quick what happens when you do a pair of heads and you go to the short turn and you dig at it and try to cut it back, lay it back too far, and that's how you find out when you make mistakes, when it's too late, because you're chasing flow numbers. I guess I do this little video because I got a little aggravated tonight. I do that. I'm human. I come across a video that I've seen a while back, and I've had at least 3 or 4 people say things to me about, because they were offended, and they said, does that guy realize when he says that he's offending other people that don't have a flow bench? Well, I'm going to tell you something. Like I said, where are the cars, where are the horsepower to prove anything except a piece of printout paper? That's my opinion. That's where I'll stand. And it's aggravating when people make them kind of comments. So it's like this here. Try to take somebody else's feelings into consideration when you're making comments. And it's also a shame when we have to watch these guys and we believe everything they say and what they've done in their life and all the high horsepower special camshaft engines they have. It's ridiculous. And what's really hurtful is when I think about the people that don't know any different, that are looking to make horsepower. They trust these kind of guys. They listen to big flow numbers, and they think that they're lacking something because they don't have a flow bench. So my video is for you guys that don't have a flow bench. So I have to laugh in a way. I just figured out some things on paper. One of these super channels, the guru that knows so much about cams and all this stuff, I want to let you guys know, if we're going to do some little bench racing with some numbers and what these guys come out with horsepower wise, if I was to do everything to my 302 that they say to do, well, my engine would be a second faster. So I'd be in the 8 seconds with a stock block 302, if that is to be mathematically correct, which in their book, oh, that's what we go by. We go by these numbers, and when it adds up to these numbers, that's how we come out to these conclusions. Whether it's mathematics don't lie. 2 and 2 equals 4, right? Every time. Well, I'm a little different with that. And I will say this. For these guys that have so much knowledge, I haven't seen them do what we've done. I haven't seen a 9-second stock block 302. And that's not to brag myself up. That's just to say that the comments some of these fellows have made to me, I'm just giving you my opinion back. So take that in consideration whenever you fellas that have these big channels and you want to say things and talk a good game against regular people like me in a garage just doing their own thing, and try to play it down and then say, oh, just because they have a fast car don't mean anything, guys. Isn't that what this is all about? Having a fast car? Do you spend hours and hours and hours and hours on a float bench trying to come up with a number because you're just having fun? Evidently. I'm sorry for a little bit of sarcasm here, but you know what? This stuff gets old after a while. And I sucked it up for a while, people saying things to me. But now you're hurting other people's feelings when you say the things you guys are saying on these channels and making people that are average guys in their garage that do the best they can feel bad. Now, if I've heard 3 or 4 people come to me and say these things, how many people are out there that I don't know or don't even know me on YouTube? How many people are you affecting by saying these kind of derogatory statements? So I'm being the spokesperson for the little guy, the guy that has no dyno, the guy that has no float bench. Take into consideration when you say things. That's all I'm asking. And this is directed to a few people, and they know who they are. And a couple guys that said things don't care. They have that way about them. They think they're the guru, and they think what they say is right, and they don't like guys like me because what I do don't make sense to them. 2 and 2 equals 4. But I come up with 2 and 2 equal 5, and they can't live it down. They don't like it. They can't handle it when a guy like me can say, here's the car. And whenever you're ready, or you want to back it up, I sit here waiting. They can't live that down. And I mean that statement. And it ain't about racing the world. It's about somebody that says these things and they want to act like they're all that and swap pistons backwards. My pistons are in straight. So all this nonsense talk that people come up with and people follow them and act like they're all that because they say it works for them, swapping pistons backwards, and yet you look at the car run 13s with a big block. It's no faster than a stock big block would be with a tunnel ram and whatever. Get my point with that? I won't say no more because I'll say the wrong thing here. But I think I made my point. My point is this. I can take it when people say things about me. I'm not the only guy out there. So, once again, I'm sticking up for the little guy. So if you guys care at all to have these bigger channels, you don't have to make yourself look like you're superior to guys that don't have the equipment that you have. Because I'm going to tell you something, there's guys I know that don't have the equipment you have that would sock you right in the butt with their vehicle. And I can promise you that. You can take that to the bank, and you can take my word on that, or you don't have to believe me. But I'm going to tell you something. I'll put it to you simply like this here. When's the last time you put a stock engine together, I'm talking to the big guys, with all stock parts and ran 10 seconds, all motor, with a small block? I've heard the other guy on here that rides himself up had $8,000 and thought that was a great deal into a small block Chevy and was bragging that whole thing up, and then at the end you find out the car ran 11 seconds. So that's what we're dealing with here. And as for that, I want to thank all the new subscribers. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit harsh, but you know, some things have to be said. Once in a while, you have to grab the bull by the horns, and that's what I'm doing here. So, it's like this here. I always try not to hurt anybody's feelings, but some of these other channels don't care who they hurt. And I just feel like I gotta be the spokesperson once in a while, and that's what I'm doing. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and have a good night. God bless you.